Buonasera a tutti. Good evening to everyone. Just to start, I would like to test the translations. As I said 5 minutes ago, there will be a conference in English and a conference in French. And if you need translations, there are earphones outside. Dunque, buonasera a tutti. Come l'ho detto all'inizio, ci sarà una conferenza in francese e una conferenza in inglese. Dunque, chi ha bisogno di cuffie per le traduzioni dovrebbe prenderli. E poi adesso faremo un piccolo test per le traduzioni. Penso, se non sbaglio, che il canale 1 sia l'italiano. Non so, tutti hanno la traduzione italiana? Se parlo italiano non serve. Does everybody have the Italian translation? So the Italian translation works, la traduzione italiana funziona. English is channel 2, I think. Does the English translation work? La traduzione in inglese funziona? Vedo persone che fanno così ma che non hanno le cuffie. Je ne sais pas s'il y a une traduction en vers le français. Oui? Ok. There's a translation towards French. Il y a une traduction vers le français. Si quelqu'un a besoin de la traduction vers le français, ça sera le canal 3. Translation towards French, channel 3, traduzione verso il francese, canale 3. So I will introduce in English. I'm happy to welcome you in the name of the Cardinal Center for Judaic Studies. I'm the director of this center. As most of you know, it's a center where we give full two-year program on essentially Jewish studies and also Jewish-Christian relations, the theology of Jewish-Christian relations. And of course, it's also possible to come for a few classes or one class, and for these lectures. The lecture series this year is going to be on art. The title is Art in Dialogue, Art as Dialogue, or Art as Dialogue, Art in Dialogue. Why did we choose this? I think the first thing is art dialoguing together. Christian art, Jewish art, dialoguing together. This first evening is on music. The next evening, on the 11th of December, will be on literature. And the third evening of the series, on the 4th of March, will be on visual arts. And so the first idea is just to let art dialogue, traditions dialogue, in the sense that just to enjoy the tradition of the other and to enjoy presenting our own tradition. There is a joy of enriching each other through our different traditions. However, I also think that there is something, it's not only putting art in dialogue, is that art can be an opportunity of dialogue. Why? Well, first of all, because the first step in any dialogue, in any encounter, is to be able to appreciate the other, to be able to appreciate the beauty of the other. Saint Augustine used to say, you can only know well if you love. Usually we think we have to be objective and keep our distance, but it's not true. To really be able to know someone or something, you need to love this person or to love this thing. And we believe that showing the beauty of the other tradition and of our tradition is the best way of helping each other appreciate each other. And also, we often forget this medium of dialogue. I would say that as medieval philosophy used to say, there are different transcendentals, and one is truth, one is good, one is beauty. And we can dialogue at all three levels. On level of truth, so what do we believe in, why do we believe this, and we get to the point where we understand our points in common and our differences. There's the dialogue on the level of the good, which is common action for the world,
tikkun olam, we would say in Hebrew, working for the reparation of the world together. But we often forget the dialogue at the level of beauty. Beauty touches us in very deep zones and helps us understand each other, express each other, and maybe enter into contact with each other. So this is the idea of this series. I hope you will be happy with it. I'm certainly happy to have here the different speakers, and I will just introduce the moderator, who will introduce tonight's theme more specifically and tonight's speakers. And we're very glad to have with us Dottore Claudio Procaccia. I have to read because his title is very long. Claudio Procaccia is the director of the Department for Beni Culturali and Attività Culturali of the Jewish Community of Rome. Dunque, direttore del Dipartimento per i beni e le attività culturali della comunità ebraica di Roma. He's a historian and an economist, and for the Bea Center, he's someone very special because Claudio Procaccia is the delegate of the chief rabbi of Rome to the Bea Center. And he's been a great help and a great support in these 2 years where he's been delegate. And I can seize this opportunity to thank him also for this work, and to thank him for having accepted to introduce and moderate our evening tonight.
For the invitation and for this first appointment of the cycle, the conference entitled Art as in Dialogue, Jewish and Christian Music. Very interesting. And through these 3 conferences, as you have anticipated, that we have the opportunity to better understand the relationship between music, literature, visual arts, and different cultures. Thanks to the Pontifical Gregorian University, and in particular the Cardinal Bea Center and Etienne, Vetö, the director, and together with the Pontifical Council for Culture and the Center for Studies of Christianity of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And in this circumstance, I have the honor to present 2 very important guests. Hervé Roten, director of the European Institute of Jewish Music, and Philippe Chateau, chief of the Aesthetic Department for the Center of Paris. So, just a few things before starting. Since the human being has understood his own nakedness, he has recognized his own face in the mirror of water, he has begun to build altars, bury people, dead people, but also paint, play, sing, and dance. Even before the invention of writing and the affirmation of the monotheistic culture, the superstructural elements played a fundamental role in the essential mapping of the single person and of the entire population, points of reference of a cosmos that is too big, wonderful, and in many ways terrible, which is included as a sense of respect and fair, but that also produces the joy of living. And all this is expressed through the art of which music is fundamental part. For Jews, music has played a fundamental role, from the songs dedicated to the liberation from the slavery of Egypt, passing through the songs of the ancient temple of Jerusalem, but also for the music of the exile in Babylon. There is a constant presence of the liturgical music over the centuries. The contemporary era is characterized by the significant presence of many Jews in the musical field, even included in the liturgical sector. On the other hand, from the first centuries of the Christian era, the reflection on music by the ecclesiastical writers and fathers of the church is divided in 2 different contexts: reference to a music as a mathematical discipline, and those relating to the practice of singing, especially the religious one. In this instance, I would like to tell you that the Jewish community of Rome has got a remarkable heritage of songs related to the 5 synagogues of the ancient ghetto. the Castilian, Catalonian, Sicilian Jews, Italian and Roman Jews with different traditions. They were in Rome. As you know, Jews are here since the 2nd century before the Christian age, so it's the most ancient cultural group of the city. And many songs were composed by not Jewish people, and today are still played during and sings during the tefillot, during the prayers. So, and in this sense, I would like to thank even Pasquale Troia that published, the Professor Troia that published a few books and papers related to the history of the music of the Roman Jewish community. And so I hope you can come in our synagogue and Jewish museum and archives in order to study and our tradition. Thank you. Now we can start. First of all, I would like again to introduce Professor Hervé Roten, Director of the European Institute of Jewish Music. This institution was created in 2006. Today is the biggest European center of documentation materials dedicated to the Jewish music. And Professor Roten is better, was very early interested in Jewish music. Today is one of the best specialists of Jewish music in the world. Thank you, Professor Roten.
Thank you very much. And I am very happy to be here with you and this evening for this first lecture about art. Beauty is very important, but if you understand the music of the other, it's very important to understand your music, because you hear me? Okay, it's better like that. So it's very difficult to speak about Jewish music in only 35 minutes, but I will try to do my best. First of all, contrarily to the biblical texts and prayers written a long time ago, Jewish music was transmitted already during centuries, which all the changes it applies. So there is not only one, but many Jewish music, each of them related to a historical context and a cultural environment due to the diaspora. Jewish music is thus a very unique plural concept, as shown by the following audio example, in which we will successively hear through Israel a prayer in the Western Ashkenazi rite, the beginning of the Song of Songs in the Tunisian rite of Jerba, and finally Wafet Semo, a Yom Kippur prayer in the Ethiopian rite. Where do these three music examples meet? Do they have characteristics that are specifically Jewish? The answer is no. The musical language used here is common to many other music. In this case, one can ask the question of what determines the Jewishness of a music. If we want to answer this question, we must refer to the tripartite theory of the musicologist and semiologist Jean Molineau. According to the latter, three elements are involved in all musical productions: the performer of the music itself, and the listener. It means the one for whom the produced music is intended. Let's apply this theory to Jewish music. Should one be Jewish to make Jewish music? The answer is clearly no. Beethoven's Violin Concerto remains a secular work, even if performed by Yehudi Menuhin, Isaac Stern, or Yitzhak Perlman. On the other hand, many klezmer bands are now composed of non-Jewish musicians. And yet, everyone considers this music as Jewish. If one considers Molineau's theory of tripartition again, the definition of Jewish music is very clear. The most important thing is not the performer, nor the music itself, but rather the audience for which it's intended. In fact, a music is not intrinsically Jewish. It is its context of execution that makes it Jewish. If it's for the worship, for Jewish wedding, or a concert of Jewish works. For example, you will find in the liturgy many prayers sung on classical tunes, on Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, or songs, Israeli, Oriental songs, and even the French national anthem, La Marseillaise, among the Lubavitch. These tunes have entered the synagogue musical expression and are now considered by the faithful as part of the cult. On the other hand, it is not enough to be Jewish to compose Jewish music. It is once again the context of execution of the composition, is it a work intended for the synagogue, for example, that will determine if the work is Jewish or not. This phenomenon is found in all religious music. When Bach composed his Mass in B minor, his chorals or oratorios, he writes music in a clearly Christian context. Text in Latin, respect of the different parts of the Mass, etc. But he doesn't change his musical language. It simply adapts it to the intended audience. We can therefore understand the birth of Jewish music as a phenomenon of appropriation of a set of people who claim it as such. This view merged the Jean-Paul Sartre existential theory, according to which it is the others who make us who we are. Let us see how this principle works with a very known tune, the Hatikva, the Israeli national anthem. For this example, I will refer to the researches of Thea Hertz, who gave a lecture on this subject at the European Institute of Jewish Music about 1 year ago. But first of all, let's listen the Hatikva. have noted the similarity with the Moldau, a symphony poem that the Bohemian composer Bedřich Smetana composed in 1874. Some people have claimed that Smetana's tune would be the source of the Atikva. The reality is more complex. Smetana himself said that this melody was only an adaptation of several popular songs that one can find in various European countries, such as Poland, Ukraine, or the Netherlands.
Maszerują chłopcy, maszerują, karabiny błyszczą, szary strój, a przed nimi drzewa salutują, bo za naszą Polskę idą w bój.
This legend of kinship between the Moldau and the Atikva goes back to the prohibition by the authorities of the British Mandate to broadcast on the Palestine radio any other anthem than the British. To get around that prohibition, the people in charge of the Hebrew programs on the radio broadcasted the Moldau as often as possible because of the similarity between this tune and the Atikva. If we analyze now the Atikva melody, we can say that it contains three melodic elements: an upward 5-note motif, a larger note, and then a downward 5-note motif, and repeated twice. Then an octave leap, typical of Hasidic songs, repeated twice. And the end, probably originating from Eastern Europe, we have two downwards motifs, C to F and G to D, repeated twice. Okay, I do my best to do very quick, but sorry, it's not very, no. Okay. So, let's focus on the first part, on this melody. The oldest source of the beginning of the Atikva seems to be Italian. It is the melody or a dance from Mantova of the 16th century called the Mantovana. This melody is attributed to the Italian composer Giuseppe Cenci, also known as Giuseppino del Biado, died in 1616. Let us listen. This melody, later known as Ballo di Mantova and Aria di Mantova, gained great popularity in Europe during the Renaissance period and was adapted to all kinds of lyrics and languages, such as the Polish, Ukrainian, and Dutch songs that we heard previously. Mozart also used it in his variation on the air of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but you will hear it is in minor. Probably towards the middle of the 18th century, German, Polish, and Spanish Portuguese Jews integrated this air into their prayer, as it's testified by the prayer for Jew, Lech Shalom Geshem, still sung today in the Spanish Portuguese community of London. As the melody became Jewish, but at the end of the 18th century, Thomas Olivier, a lecturer and priest, came to the synagogue in London to hear the beautiful voice of Leon Meyer, aka Leoni, a cantor from Germany. Thomas Olivier appreciated this melody so much that he took it and adapted new lyrics on it, thus spreading the hymn in all the English-speaking churches. In 1887, Samuel Cohen, a Jew from Bessarabia, arrived in Palestine. He was so moved by the poem Atikva, Hope in Hebrew, that Naftali Hertzimberg just published a year earlier in Jerusalem, that he decided to set it to music on the theme of a Romanian folk song, Carul Kuboi, which means cart with oxen.
Electricitate, căi ferate și vapori încă nu erau aflate, mergeau toate fără zor, căci bătrânii erau moi, își mânau caruri cu boi. Hăișcea, 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 hăișcea. Azi zburăm pe căi ferate, prin vagoane îndesate, sosind cu capetele sparte, nemâncați și degerați, decât cu atâtea nevoi, mai bine cu car cu voi. Hăișcea, 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 hăișcea,
This song, Atikva, became a huge success in Palestine and spread in diaspora. In 1901, the Atikva was sung by the delegates of the Fifth World Zionist Congress under the name of Tikvatenu, with all of its 10 stanzas. And from the Sixth Congress in 1905, it was customary to sing the first 2 stanzas at the end of each Zionist Congress. During the 18th World Zionist Congress in 1933, the song was adopted as the official anthem of Zionism and then became Israel's national anthem in 1948 for the creation of the Israeli state. However, it was not until November 2004 that this recognition was officially validated by the Israeli parliament. Finally, among the last musical and religious exchanges, one can find the 20th century of the Hatikva adaptation by the French evangelical Protestant composer Hector Arnera on the hymn O Take My Soul. This air is popularized in Catholic churches by the Emmanuel community, which makes it appear with slightly modified words in its songbook Is Alive, published in 2007, translated into several languages, English, Spanish, Italian, Dutch, Polish, Portuguese, and Chinese, and so and so. And we will see the video. Now, if I have 5 minutes, I think, let's just present a very short classification of the Jewish liturgical musical corpus. The Jewish liturgy, elaborated in the synagogues over centuries, consists of several elements. Originally, there are basic prayers, such as the Shema, that affirms the oneness of God, the Hallel, a set of 6 psalms, 113 to 118, or the Amida, whose blessings are first recited in a loud voice, then a second time aloud with the faithful. Added to this are the reading of the psalm and the contemplation of the Torah, regulated by a system of biblical accents, whose musical interpretation differ from one community to the other, as we will hear now. As an example, let us listen to the beginning of the Genesis Bereshit in 6 different traditions. First, Portuguese rite from Bordeaux in France, then Italian Rome, then Western Ashkenazi from Paris, then Eastern Ashkenazi from Poland and Lithuania, then Kurdistan from Zako, and finally Greece from Chalkis. And you will see that if the text is the same, the music changes.
Bereshit bara Elohim et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz.
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 Bereshit bara Elohim et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz ve'haaretz hayethatov.
this method of recitation also applied to the field of chanting in a simple and efficient manner using the principle of the syntonization, which is a process of creating musical pieces from the arrangement of the same melodic material in a different order every time, as we will hear in the following example. It's a Psalm 81.
Lamnatseach halagitit le'asaf lekech Agninu le'Elohim Hoseu Havriu le'Elohei Yaakov Sehu zimraut nutov Kinor naim nabel Tiku b'chodesh shofar Vakesel leyom chagenu kichok.
So I have no time to develop, but this psalm is based on a pentachordal structure. It's the same structure as the Atikva we heard previously. It's very interesting. So I continue, and then between the 5th and the 6th centuries, many religious poems called piyut, or piyutim in the plural, made their introduction into worship. As they used new texts, their author did not hesitate to borrow already existing music or to use the ordinary musical language to create new music, as we will hear in our next example. Here, the text of the Shabbat songs Deror Ikra, written by Dunash ben Labrat in Spain in the 10th century, has been put on a 13th century trouvère music. The trouvère was a wandering poet singers from the north of France. Finally, from the second half of the 18th century, some reformers will promote the introduction of Western art music into worship. This phenomenon is directly related to the emancipation movement of the European and American Jewry, which will lead them to reform the cult and the model of Christian worship in particular. In conclusion, Better Than Words I would like to finish my speech with a short video of 1 minute, just 1 minute, that will summarize perfectly the plural singularity of Jewish music. It is an arrangement of the Marc-Antoine Charpentier Te Deum that was made for the Eurovision Song Contest just this year. And it's very funny. You will hear I don't say anything. If I can have the video, please, and not the audio, it will be okay. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.